until. Oh wait, he was going to be. Thank you very much. It's past 3:50. Because I don't want to hear. It was time to start the show and you guys played. It was past 3:50. And they can hear us too.
Saving your
Are we
energy.
supposed to play?
It's fully charged, but never. If you run out of gas, they will get you.
Okay, fine, let's play.
You know, that happened.
Here we go. Yankee Doodle. There we go. The other thing faded out.
We need to be able to get to Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, so the next thing will probably be the Star Spangled Banner.
Stars fading band after grand opening. No.
No, I don't. I'm not. Well, I'm not sure. We might play that. I don't know what's happening. But then after, we'll play the national anthem and then the service medley. Those are the next two things.
It's called, it's under Armed Forces.
Armed Forces medley.
It's not in our way.
What's that?
He wants to know if the Arizona flag will be in our way there.
No.
Thank you for coming.
Although we will go out that way, so let's move it a little bit. Okay.
Get out your phone and tape it to your
Well,
head.
so I was carrying my cord with me.
I have a portable charger, you know, like a mini charger. USB thing.
He's monkeying around and bring it. Cursor keeps coming on the screen.
Just give you a boost, right?
In case I run out of gas.
Get that at Amazon or something.
I think I just had it from my phone. One of my kids gave it to him for my birthday, you know, like if you're out somewhere and you need a charge. It's like a battery. It works on this too. That's pretty cool. So now I just bring it. It's in my other bag. Like the swing
You still need the
bag.
cable.
Sorry.
You need the cable.
I keep a bag. It's a little bag. Actually, it's a little pouch that
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Yeah, so next thing is the national anthem. Starts when we're at.
We have a couple less than people checking in, but please, everyone, we're about to start, so please, if you want something to drink, drink station over there by the kitchen, get yourself something, and as soon as these people get seated, I'll move on. people are getting their drinks, I'd like to, we're a little late, so not great for military precision, but thank you for joining us tonight for our 11th annual Veterans Celebration Dinner here at Desert Hills. I'm Blake Zandbergen. I'm an Air Force veteran. I was here last year if you were. It was my first time last year, so hopefully I'll do a little better this year. But on behalf of Troop Care Ministry here, we'd like to thank you for your support, and on behalf of the church and the whole family, welcome and thank you for serving. I hope you all got a chance to go out yesterday, and this year's a little different. It's an odd day. We decided to go the day after Veterans Day, so hopefully you got to enjoy all your veterans benefits throughout town. I know there are a lot of good ones. I had a free oil change, car wash, free lunch, and free dinner last night. And I have to say, I've never been to the Thirsty Lion. It's in Desert Ridge, but they let you order anything you wanted on the menu. Didn't matter how much it cost. There was no special. So I always like to plug the places that that honor veterans, and please, you know, go there throughout the year. So they did a really nice job. They were very, very kind. So you'll see many of the same people you've seen on the Troop Care Ministry helping tonight. You see Shirley and Rhonda over there. Kim George is a new member. She's done a lot of the work here. And we really appreciate everyone that has helped us be able to do this for you. Tonight will be very similar to last year in cadence. We will start the evening, late afternoon evening, with a remembrance of the veterans we've lost since our last gathering. Then we'll have a military medley played by Jeffrey and the Fountain Hill Saxophone Quartet that we are very blessed to have with us. They do a fine job, and I know you're all familiar with them if you've been here before. After that, our guest speaker, Rose Maddie, will discuss values, lessons learned from the greatest generation. Then we'll have our dinner, so you gotta make it through a little time, hopefully around 5. And during dinner, as always, we'll do some trivia. It'll be at your table. It'll be explained to you a little later, and we'll give away some prizes. So to begin, we're pleased again to have the Boy Scouts with us and to present the colors. So please stand for the presentation of the colors. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, now Please join us in honoring the veterans that have passed away since our last celebration. George Passanelli. Bill Allen. Lloyd Meyer. Bill Schultze. Michael Campbell. Ed Jensen. David Goodall. Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for our time and fellowship with these fellow service members. We miss them here with us, but know they are enjoying a gathering and celebration with you that can only be imagined. We know you will continue to watch over these special people and their families and bless them with peace and happiness. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, now we're going to be treated to the annual sing-a-thon for you all. So the quartet will play a service medley, and when your service's song is played, if you would please stand so we could recognize you as being in that branch. And also, everyone can sing, so you won't embarrass anybody if you want, but we could vote on, in the end, who sings the best, too, each branch. So, all right. All right, very good, very good. I don't know that we had anybody standing for the Coast Guard, but we do have people from the church that are in the Coast Guard serving right now. So very good. I think the Fountain Hills Saxophone Quartet maybe won the battle, but it was all good singing, all very good. All right, I think we're back, pretty much running on time. Tonight's speaker is here with us, as well as her mother, Shelley. So thank you for joining us. 80 years ago, World War II was raging right now, and people were volunteering to go out and fight for their country. Our speaker tonight, Rose Mattey, is someone that voluntarily answered the call and did 3 combat tours in our latest conflicts. I've read her amazing bio, and I must say one of my favorite parts is when she says that she's in her most challenging role now, that of being a mom. I think most of the moms here would probably agree with that. I also read an incredible book mentioned in her bio called Ashley's War, and I know it circulated a little bit and maybe it was on the church website. I don't know if anyone else read it, but it's an amazing story. I highly recommend it because I think it shows the lengths that our country went to try and make a difference in Afghanistan. I'm not really sure what Rose will talk about or the amazing things that she accomplished in her service. And she continues to serve now as she's a military spouse. Tonight, she has chosen to share with us how the greatest generation shaped her values. I'm extremely grateful and honored that she agreed to be with us here today and share in our veteran celebration. So please join me in welcoming Rose Mattey.
Thank you. If we want to start that video or get everybody motivated with a little motivational video that I have, and it'll go through some pictures that I hope you guys keep in mind for questions at the end of this.
Come on, dive in. The future's here. It's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. Welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive? You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you. The door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today. Learn the part and join the play. The world is here. Let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life.
Thank you. Thank you. The opening song on that was Here's My Story. And, you know, we all have stories to share about our service, and we all have stories on how we got to who we are from our service, from people we know, from family members. For me in particular, it was from members of the greatest generation, my grandparents. I had 3 grandparents that served in World War II. But I made the mistake of never asking their story, which a lot of us, I feel, have done that. And we're recognizing now, and today with these conflicts, how important it is to share those stories, to listen, so that we can all learn, and we can become better people, and we can become better at what we do for others. So we're talking about values. To me, the word value really didn't mean anything until I joined the military. Can you test my thing here? Slide. Interesting. Oh, okay, wait. Here, go back. Okay, that's Grandpa Archie. Now we have, all right, Grandpa Ralph. Grandpa Ralph was my dad's dad. He served, honestly, maybe Navy, I think Navy. I think sometimes I refer to it as Army, but that just highlights how I just don't know. One of the values he taught me, and it was only by watching him, he ended up living with us later in his life, thanks to my amazing mother who took him in. He set alarms for everything. Alarms. And he never, I think he also reset the cuckoo clock many times too, because it didn't match his alarm. But, you know, it teaches me punctuality. He got signed up very reluctantly to go and interact with other people his age when he got older in time, because my mom thought it was very important to get him out of the house. And I don't know why. No, I do now. So he would set alarms, check the cuckoo clock, be up, but he'd always be out front after he realized he enjoyed this adventure early. 5 to 10 minutes early. Never wanted anybody waiting on him. He was out there, he was ready. I think some people refer to that as Lombardi time. Grandpa Archie, Navy. I spent many summers up on the lake with Grandpa Archie. And we're gonna get to more to Grandpa Archie in a little bit. The value I took away from Grandpa Archie is leadership. Not because he sat me down and said, today we're gonna talk about leadership. No. The generation really, they don't tell you things, they just expect you to do things and give you creative nicknames if you don't complete those tasks on time, especially from a sailor. Oh, wait, I think I missed Grandma Betty, bear with me. Yay, Grandma Betty. Grandma Betty was my dad's mother. Grandma Betty and Grandpa Ralph divorced when my dad turned 18, and we totally respected that. It was nothing odd to us growing up. It was just normal. Grandma Betty was here, Grandpa Ralph was over there. Grandma Betty, I wish I would have asked her more about her story. She served in World War II in Okinawa, Japan, as a nurse. She, from what I remember of her, was a world traveler. She loved to travel, loved to go on adventures. Never once did you think that she needed somebody to go with her or tell her how to do things or do whatever. She was way ahead of her time when it comes to women. She taught me duty. She took care of what she needed to. She planned what she needed to. She was on the Women's League of Voters, my mom recently told me, and did everything she could to fulfill her duty. She was a school nurse, and I believe around the age of 60 is when she completed her nursing degree, which is amazing. I told my mom after all my combat tours, if I get my degree before the age of 60, then I'm good. And I did. I got my degree while I was pregnant with my children. So the second one, finally finished it. And now I'm in my master's program for international relations. Grandpa Archie. All right, we're back on track. All right, life at the lake. Anybody here like being on the lake? Anybody here from Minnesota? All right, Minnesota, way up north. Yeah, we go drink up there and have a great time, yeah. Everybody goes up north to Minnesota on the lake. My grandfather, being Navy, loved the water, loved the lake. I had 18 plus cousins, and they had like great cousins, like what would you call it, great grandchildren they had. But for some reason, throughout growing up, I was the one that got singled out. In a good way, now I realize. I wasn't the oldest grandchild, and I wasn't the youngest. I was somewhere in the middle. But I was always the one, when Grandpa was putzing around in the garage, right next to him. What do you need, Grandpa? What are you working on? What's going on? Following him everywhere. I learned very quickly we do things Grandpa's way. Even if there's a much faster way, we do things Grandpa Archie's way. There's Archie's way and Archie's way. But he could fix anything. It was amazing. Duct tape and a hanger, you can fix anything. The time at the lake is when I learned those values that he taught me. I got yelled at a lot for not picking up all the life jackets before it got dark and making sure they're secured on the line. Whether I wore the life jacket or not, apparently it was my responsibility to make sure I cleaned up after my cousins. I realized then that I could make them clean up and I didn't have to do all the hard work. It took me a few years into my teens to figure that out. He also had a garage code. Not like a code in the sense of you type it in and the garage would go up, because it was definitely a manually lifted garage. But he was a part of his community, and if his garage door was open, anybody walking by that day was allowed to come in. Come in, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee. Grandma was sure to have snacks ready for somebody, and to sit and chat and talk. Nothing really about his service or anything, unless it was a service buddy. But he welcomed everybody, and so did my Grandma Jan. And that showed me the sense of community and how important it is to connect with one another and get off our social media and be present like you guys all are here today. So, not inspired by my grandparents' service, because they never talked about it. It was something that they did, and they were veterans, and we said thank you on Veterans Day. But once I got in the service, I realized what they had taught me. And I'm going to read. After my grandfather passed away, my aunts had found a letter I had written him when I was in AIT, which was a long time ago. And I was reading this the other day, and I'm going to try and get through it, because it talks about when I realized what values meant. So, dear Grandma and Grandpa, I hope all is well up at the lake. I miss you both, and I cannot wait until I come home to see you. Right now, I'm in AIT, Advanced Individual Training. I'm going to learn how to repair construction equipment. I actually get to learn the systems. The engine system, the exhaust system, the electrical system, and the hydraulic system. I'm excited. I love to learn, and I'm getting paid to do it. Basic training gave me a good chance to do some self-reflection. I realized that many of the characteristics that I have, I learned from you both. The Army has 7 values that they teach us and expect us to uphold. Loyalty. Bear true faith and allegiance to the United States Constitution, the Army, your unit, and other soldiers. Duty. Fulfill your obligations. Respect. Treat people as they should be treated. Grandpa, you truly, oh wait, let me go to Grandma first. Sorry. Selfless service. Put the welfare of the nation, the Army, and your subordinates before your own. Honor. Live up all to the Army values. Integrity. Do what is right, legally and morally. Personal courage. Face fear, danger, or adversity, physical or moral. I realized that many of these values I already had in me before I joined the Army. I just didn't associate them with words or definitions. Grandma, you truly taught me and showed me by example how to be selfless. I learned the values of selfless service from you, the way you would cook breakfast and dinner for anyone who stayed at your house. and how you always welcome people into your house for a meal or to sleep. I know many of my friends have benefited and have been touched by your selfless service, and so have I. Thank you. Grandpa, you truly taught me duty. You would make sure that I did my duty while I was at the lake. You taught me to make sure things were picked up and that everything was put away before nightfall. You also taught me how to be responsible and disciplined, which helped me gain the leadership roles that I did. You taught me how to step up and lead others in a way with respect. You also taught me how to be nice and helpful to those who needed encouragement or a friend. One of the privates who was in my platoon with me told me I was a good leader because I lead in an instructional way, not a bossy kind of way, and that I'm willing to put my own benefits aside for others. She was one of the older women, and I laugh now because I wrote this when I was 20. She was only 35. So it meant more coming from her. I told her that I am just doing what my family taught me. Before I received the Commanding General's Award, which is the top soldier for basic training, I had to go in front of the board. Anybody remember going in front of a board in your service? It's quite intimidating, isn't it? I had to answer questions. There were 4 drill sergeants, a captain, and a first sergeant. One question was, what value do I feel that I represent the most and why? My answer was selfless service. I told them that I learned to be that way before the Army, and now I've had a chance to put that value into action. While at basic training, the first sergeant liked my answer because nobody else chose that value. I love you very much, and I can't wait to see you at Christmas. And I read that because sometimes in our lives, we don't even realize that we have impacted somebody. And many times, they don't reach out and tell you. So, how many here have grandkids? Yeah. You guys are all influencing them just by being present. Here's some pictures of Grandpa and family. This is my mom's dad and mom. They lived a great, humble life up on the lake, married 50 plus years, which is amazing. Mom, you're catching up to that, aren't you? I'm going to talk a little bit about, since we've discussed values, and it has brought me to a point in my career when I recognized that there was an opportunity. The Special Operations had requested women to fulfill roles that the men could not do because of cultural differences in Afghanistan. We realized kind of late in the game that 50% of the population were women, and our soldiers were not even allowed to interact with them. For good or for bad. It was going kind of both ways. You know, the men could dress as women and get around because it was an asymmetrical warfare. We were on a whole new level. I took my values with me on this deployment, and it was my 3rd deployment, so I have already learned how to interact with my male counterparts and gain their respect that I could do the mission and wasn't just looked at as the girl on the team, but a value to that mission. One of the things I remember the most about being on the ground and living in a mud hut, no electricity, unless we turn the generator on, no running water. We had a well to get our water, no shower, which I think my mom thinks I stayed with that thought. Sunday shower day, right? Yeah. Saving water, we're in a drought. But we lived a very humble, very opposite from what we do in the States. And getting to live like a local in Afghanistan brought me able to connect with them a little more as well. My battle sister Rachel and I and our female interpreter, we get to go around the village, and we gave ourselves names that was easier for them to pronounce in Pashto, which was the language. And my name was Gwala, which means flower. The little kids would run around and yell, Gwala, Gwala, come to my house, come to my house. And they would tug you and pull you different directions because their mothers wanted to meet us. That's special. To be in a combat zone, to be looked at as a foreigner on somebody else's land, but to have them have the same values that my grandparents did and wanted to welcome you in. They would bring us in, give us food, the best food, and they didn't have much, but they gave us and offered us their best food. And we looked intimidating. We had our weapons and our helmets. Our men were not allowed in. They had to stay outside. And we get to go in and we get to chat with these women. And the thing I took away from that was, no matter where we are in life, we are all human. We all want the best for our family, the best for our children and grandchildren, and we're all trying to teach values in everybody so that we can all get along, even in times of conflict. And those women were hardy and strong, and they knew everything that was going on in the village, even if they could not leave their compound. We had women climbing over walls from compound to compound to get to sit and chat with us. They didn't have TV or news or access to many stuff like that, so just to see the difference in what they thought we were there for was very interesting. They thought whatever the Taliban taught them or whatever Al-Qaeda rolled through and told them about us. And so they did not like us at first. Even though they welcomed us in, they would definitely tell us, we don't want you here. Just go away, we don't want you here. By the end of it, they were like, I'm sorry I said that. Can you come back to my house? We ran into one girl, we were on a mission, and she's peeking over her wall, her mud hut. And she was young, maybe about between 7 to 10. And she's shouting to us in Pashtun, and we have no idea what she's saying. And ironically, even though our interpreter was talking to her, she had no idea what we were saying. But we went over and chatted with her. And we figured it out through the interpreter. She did not even know that there was other languages in the world. She did not understand why she couldn't understand what my battle sister and I were saying, but she could understand our interpreter. And that's how far back they have gone in Afghanistan. And if you think back, it's almost like it's biblical times in sense, they're living with not much. But they still had values, and they still had this sense of community. And it takes a village and everyone to get along and make our world work. I had another opportunity to be out on a mission. And just as I was integrating and getting to know the locals and their culture and their values, it's called the Pashtun Wali, a set of values that the Pashtuns have. On the other side, I've also had to integrate with our male counterparts and who special operations, the 1%ers, the elite, who did not feel like we needed to be there sometimes. I had to win them over as well. So my battle sister and I had kind of two missions ahead of us. We had to integrate with special operations men, and we had to integrate with the local population. So I made it a point to help out wherever I could. And luckily, my grandfather and my military staff had taught me how to just get out in the motor pool. So I took my skills in the motor pool and I would fix things that weren't working that the soldiers needed. I would piece one motorcycle parts for another one and get it up and running. And I would try and do things just outside of my role as a cultural support member. They recognized that. And on one of our final missions, they asked me to be a driver. So they asked me not to be in a role of the cultural support, not we're going to go integrate with women, but they needed a soldier at this time. And that's what I was trained to do, be a soldier, but legally was not allowed to. So they let me drive a truck on a mission. and they brought along a small infantry squad we had with them. So we get into this valley. Now our special ops men are gonna go off and do whatever they were tasked to doing on their mission. And they looked around at their infantry squad, and they looked at me, and they said, Maddie, you're in charge of the squad here. It's like, wow. That was an honor. A little bit scary too, because you're in the middle of a combat zone, but that they felt I was prepared enough to lead an infantry squad was amazing to me, and I am grateful and humbled for that opportunity. I kind of felt like I made it, and that was after 10 years and 2 combat tours. It took me that long to get to that point. That mission was special because we didn't really understand at the time the history that we were making. I look back to my Grandma Betty, and she made history in her own role and having different rules, and women were allowed into the service after she served, and the different steps we have taken along the way to integrate women and show that we are a value added. Congress watched this mission. The general told us, people are watching to see how women integrate in special operations. When we got back, we found out that that was true. Congress and everything was looking at it. And directly because of the actions that my battle sisters and I did and stood up and were able to hang with the guys in combat, they lifted the ban on women in combat roles. And not to say that's for everybody, but just to say that the opportunity is out there if somebody has that passion and that drive and they want to serve their country in that capacity, that now they can. So I am proud of that, and I am proud that our country has gotten to that point. So now the fun part. I said I would do some Q&A. So, Blake, are you gonna be walking around? So feel free, it can be about the topics I've talked about or anything in the bio, or I'm open book right now, you guys, so please, if you have questions.
Anyone raise your hand? I'll read the microphone.
Thank you. How many people can fit in a Black Hawk helicopter?
Great, so it depends on how we have it configured for the mission, but I can seat 11 passengers in the back, 2 crew chiefs, and then the 2 pilots. And it is fun. Have you been on a Black Hawk? Oh yeah? What'd you do in the service?
I did a bunch of things. I was airborne.
Airborne, awesome. I never got to go to that.
I'd like to know what was going on in that last picture that you showed where you were upside down.
Oh, yes. One of my very dangerous hobbies that my mom does not like is rock climbing. And so that was actually at Camelback. There is some rock climbing routes, bolted routes. You can climb up to the back. That rock was Praying Monk, and if you can spider rappel down the back side of it. And so I decided to do a nice rappel down the back side, and my buddy caught a picture. And yes, I'm teaching my kids next.
Was that part of the, I'm gonna ask a question.
Yes.
Was that part of the training? Like I said, I read the Ashley's War, and they talked about in there that it was one of the most difficult things to learn to rappel out of a helicopter, I guess.
Yes, some of the women had that school before they got to do this mission. I was not lucky enough to have that school, so that was on my personal time that I got to do that.
Oh, there's one over here.
Thank you, Maddie, for an informative talk. Would you comment about the end of the Afghan war, and in particular, your feelings as a person who was deployed there?
Absolutely. So it was very interesting. After Afghanistan fell, a lot of my battle sisters and I, who did this mission on the ground, we started chatting and getting in touch with each other. And the theme that we all thought is, we kind of knew that would happen, ironically. From being so far on the ground level and in the village, the government really did not set up they tried to do a top-down, let's put in a government and everybody will follow suit. But because of lack of infrastructure, lack of education, the whole different, like I said, they don't even know there's another language. The ground level in the villages, which are disconnected from the city centers, they had no idea what was going on. And so the influence from the Taliban still pretty much ran the show because the Taliban are Pashtun, the locals are Pashtun. They kind of feel a little more connected to that. And so I feel if we would have done the village stability operations and started with our local police and the force that we started doing at the end of it, if we would have started with that and started with a little more education infrastructure at the local level, we probably would have been a little more successful. But that is me, my very personal thought on that.
Do you consider it to have been a privilege to serve?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very much a privilege. I learned so much from my service. You learn from the hard times. We learn from our mistakes. And being able to look back and reflect and put all of that stuff into context is kind of the reason I decided to get my master's in international relations. I feel that there's so much more I can learn and that my ground experience is just enhancing that learning process.
How many Battle Sisters were there? How many people were like you involved in operations?
Great question. So the first group of us that did this trial program called the CST Cultural Support Team, there was hundreds of people that applied. At the final, after training, going to deployment, we were down to 60 of us. Half of the women went and deployed with the Ranger Regiment and did more of that direct action missions where they're going in at night and they're the ones searching the women, very on point, on target, and then out of there. The village stability operations were the other half of us, and we were more on that softer side, able to integrate in the local population, living in the environment and be more austere. So after our initial group, we were considered CST2, and I'll check my facts with you after because I have it in a book. There was 8 more rounds of women that went through an assessment and a selection and deployed overseas, and then the program got disbanded. But now we can be in combat roles, so they're hoping it will kind of work its way out.
Since you did the close-up and personal interaction with, especially women and children, when you close your eyes at night, is there any one family, child, girl, mother that you remember well?
Yes, there was a little girl, and her name was Nusana. And every day, I don't think she wanted to wear the headscarf. She put a jacket on and put her hood up. She was about 7, a little tomboyish, and would just run around and always be where we were. Be like, Gwala, 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 and would laugh when I tried to speak Pashtun back to her. And it might have been her parents that were also trying to teach her. There was a couple pockets you would find of families that were trying to teach their daughters to read and write and still trying to hold on and teach that, but not many. But I just remember the name Nusana because she made me say it like 100 times. I think I have her picture over here. I'll show you after. She's great.
Did you learn to speak Pashtun, and if so, how long did it take you? How did you do it? And do you want to go back to that same area?
It's great. So we did not get as much language as most of the special operations soldiers do just because they put us on a time crunch, which is why we had our interpreter. I would have loved to learn more, but I learned enough to do the basic greetings, things you do when you go to a foreign country. You learn how to say, hi, how are you, go away, come here. And we had a little pocket guide. And then we would work, we had our female interpreter who was amazing. She could read, write like 3 languages and every different dialect of the country. And we would try and get her to teach some stuff, but if you don't use it, you lose it. So I'm not even gonna attempt. And to the second part, would I like to go back? Parts of me would. I feel like my battle sister and I had a really, really big impact on the community, especially the children. And now those children are the young adults, you know, and they are the next moving up the chain and going to be the leaders of that country. And it'd be very interesting to have a conversation and see if my role and my interaction with them kind of changed a view or a perspective for them in their future.
Was your translator able to get a special visa or into the U.S. at the end of the conflict?
So our specific interpreter was from the U.S. already. So she had, I don't think she knew what she signed up for. We taught her a lot. But for some that were over there, and some of the women that were over there when everything fell were networked in with some of our soldiers, and I'm pleased to say yes, we have found a way and are still working on for some to get back to the States, and because we appreciate the way that they have helped us.
Do you know what happened to the women in the villages and the kids that you worked with?
So we do not have any. I know that the actual location that I was at down in the south was a very kinetic location and very heavily influenced by the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And they were not able to hold that location, the special operations community. And we were the only women, my battle sister and I, that had an opportunity at that specific location. So I do not know. I hope that they are well and surviving and making the best of their life that they can right now. But it's one of those things. One day.
This is non-military. Did your grandparents have a fish house on the lakes? If so, how well equipped was it?
So, it was not very well equipped. We did not have a fish house. I would have to walk out with the auger, drill all the holes, and hopefully they didn't freeze over by the time Grandpa got out there to do our fishing. But it was him and I out there catching perch and walleye. Nobody believed us, though. It was like this big. The fish I caught, it barely fit through the hole. I was like, yes, I know. I do love fishing.
The book you referenced, is it available for sale or?
Yes, so good question. The book Ashley's War that he was talking about, Ashley was one of my battle sisters, and I trained with her side by side. She ended up deploying on the direct action side, and I was on the VSO side. And she was KIA while we were 1 month into our mission over there, which was very difficult. Before I got connected with all my battle sisters again, the lady Gail wrote, she's a journalist, she wrote the story, a brief overview of the story of Ashley and her life and the CST mission. So it is available, I believe, on Amazon. That's where he got it from. So yes.
Rose, can you talk about the pictures, what you were doing in each photo that you brought?
Oh, these ones here, yeah, yep.
Specific day and what memories you have from those.
Oh, yes. Oh, hey, that's Nusana right there. Yes, you got it. That's her.
Yep. With the hood.
Yes, the hood all the time. So yeah, it's, I was talking a little bit about this one, and
Can you hold it up?
yes, I sure. Oh, thank you, Vanna. Appreciate this. Everybody. Ken. Thank you, Ken. All right, so you can walk around with it, actually. Okay, I got it. We were on our final mission of going around and kind of telling the community that, my battle sister and I were going to go home and kind of giving them a heads up on what's going on. And all the kids decided that they were going to tug us along, trying to get us to go to their house and their house and their house. And the interesting thing about that day is our male counterparts, the Green Berets, they were like, how do you guys know everybody in the village? Like, they were quite surprised at how much request we got for this mission. So this was the village we lived in, and these were our neighbors, and that was our view. And so that was just kind of a go around and talk to everybody. This one was unique. My mom sent over nail polish. And yeah, it was, I mean, women are women, girls are girls everywhere you go. You could connect with somebody with nail polish. And I let this girl do my nails. Some occasions I let them do my makeup. One tried to pierce my nose, and I was like, we're gonna draw a line there. So nail polish. They love colors and brightness, and if you go inside their homes, the houses are so brightly colored with beautiful fabric, and they had a hand sewing singer, right? But would make beautiful blankets, and they would stuff them with fur from the goats or the animals that they had to keep warm. And this house, we were in there doing nails, and the men were doing a humanitarian aid mission kind of at the same time. And these other kids come in bringing long things of pasta, of noodles. And I can remember the lady in the back looked at us and she's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Well, it's pasta." She's like, "Yeah, what is that? What do you do with that?" I'm like, "Well, you're supposed to eat it." "Well, how?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, you have no idea what this is." And they were kind of offended that, humanitarian aid, you think people are hungry, that they just want anything. Well, no, they're still true to their culture and their values and what they know and what they want. And she was like, "Well, can't they just give us water and flour?" Good point, because then they could make bread. So I don't know what they ended up doing with these noodles, but I just remember, it's so important for us to ask people, especially when we go into other countries, like, well, what is it do you need? Instead of just making assumptions based on what we know from our own culture. And so that's my biggest takeaway is, yes, they loved learning nail polish and all this, but you brought them food, they were like, what? What is this? But it's great. It's a great learning moment that I'm taking with me for my international relations class. Any more?
Did they use the pasta at all?
No.
You didn't show them how to make a sauce?
They did not want to waste the water. It was so scarce. They're like, why would we waste the water when we could use it for what we needed? So yeah, it was, and there's no way, they'd have to build a fire, and then you'd have to put the pot on the fire. There's no cooking. Oh, the most interesting thing, the houses over there, this is brilliant. In order to heat the houses, because there's no electricity, their fire for cooking was in a hole, and it had tunnel system throughout the house. And I remember sitting in one of the houses, and I'm looking at my battle sister. I'm like, why is we sit on the ground. Why is it hot? Did I leave a device that I have to carry on or something? And so we just asked, we're like, why is the ground hot? And they looked at us like we were idiots. They're like, because that's how the house is heated, through the fire. So we went back to our mud hut to try and find that location, and the men had used it for a trash pit or something. So I was like, guys, we could heat the house. This is amazing. But so it was interesting, very fascinating to me. Well, I don't want to keep you all from your dinner.
All right, well, please join me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll go a little longer. The way I've found the last couple of speakers is through the Veterans Heritage Project, and that kind of ties in with what she talked about today, is telling the story. So if you don't know anything about it, there's a link on the church website under Troop Care Ministry that talks about the Veterans Heritage Project. But it's an amazing project, and it's something that grew in Arizona. So, all right, without further ado, I know everybody's hungry. We'll ask Pastor Jim to say a blessing for us, and then I think Rhonda's going to explain how we're going to actually get over there and eat. There you go.
Let's pray. Gracious Lord, as we break bread around this table, we do think of those in Afghanistan. and pictures we've seen, and we pray, Lord, that as they break bread, that they would be aware of your presence, that you would somehow touch their hearts, their lives, especially the little girls that we've seen and all, that they'd be safe. So, Lord, we just ask this night that you would bless us and that we would count our blessings and that we would be a blessing to you and to all around. So bless this food to our bodies and us to your service. In Christ's name, amen.
Okay, before you fill up your glasses again and get some more coffee, I want to give you a couple of instructions. If you don't know where the pie room is, this is your first visit, right? Because where's the pie room, everybody? It's over there. So you're going to be served. Servers are going to come and bring your food to you. And then when you are done eating, then you may go to the pie room and get some pie. And while you're doing that, I want everyone to look under their plate. Someone is going to have a piece of paper under their plate. If you have that piece of paper under your plate, if you don't, and there's 2 empty plates, somebody gets to take the paper, because we need someone to be in charge of the trivia game. So it's your table against 14 other tables. So you have questions, recent history, military history. So for Iraq and Afghanistan, some of you may be at an advantage. We do not use our cell phones or the internet, so no cheating. You're in church. And then we'll see who can answer the most questions. Also, if you are a veteran, make sure that you got a ticket for the veteran drawing. We're not going to draw a veteran, but we're going to draw for prizes for veterans. So right over here, here's Cara. She has the tickets. If you did not get a ticket, make sure you get a ticket from Cara so you can be in the drawing. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and help yourself to get some more something to drink, and our servers will be out shortly.
Let's do the last covenant. Oh, yeah. Grand old flag. So we'll do 1 and 2.
Uh-oh.